Hello and welcome to this brief video on phonics or Grapheme-Phoneme Correspondence. In this video, we'll address basic information on the phonics Grapheme-Phoneme Correspondence expectations and where these can be found in the Ontario language curriculum. We'll also touch on best practices for teaching and assessing phonics. Let's get started with the basics of phonics. Grapheme-Phoneme Correspondence, or GPC, refers to the association between a grapheme, a letter or cluster of letters, and its corresponding phoneme, or speech sound, and vice versa. It is sometimes called letter-sound correspondence. Phonics is the instruction that teaches this relationship. Being able to apply this relationship with automaticity allows students to sound out and read words, or segment and spell words. The teaching and learning of these skills happens largely in the context of learning about decoding and spelling of written words. Our brains are not wired to read, and so we require explicit instruction in order to break the reading code. English is what is considered an opaque language, which means that there is not a one-to-one relationship between graphemes and phonemes. Through the explicit and systematic teaching of phonics and spelling patterns, students develop the ability to decode words, sentences, and eventually texts. Remember that while phonics is an essential component of our literacy instruction and of reading comprehension, it is by no means the only component. Now we'll focus on where phonics is found in a language curriculum. Phonics can be found in Strand B, Foundations of Language. In grade 1, students use phonics to identify, read, and spell most common grapheme-phoneme correspondences of consonants, including digraphs and vowels, with automaticity. The Language Foundations Continuum elaborates on the specific expectations. In kindergarten grade 1, this includes producing the most common grapheme for each consonant sound and the most common phoneme for each consonant grapheme, including all consonants and some common digraphs, as well as the short vowels. In grade 1, students will apply all previously taught grapheme-phoneme correspondences and will identify high-frequency and more complex grapheme-phoneme correspondences such as vowel-teams, R-controlled vowels, vowel-consonant E patterns and exceptions, diphthongs, among others. Now let's discuss the teaching of phonics, including some of the research on this topic, as well as key considerations for instruction. Research highlights the significance of using systematic, explicit phonics instruction when teaching early readers and students facing reading difficulties, regardless of their age. Phonics instruction should follow a predetermined scope and sequence of skills, moving from easy to increasingly more complex patterns. For example, we teach short vowel sounds before teaching our students that the grapheme OO can make two different sounds. Explicit instruction is characterized by direct modeling, guided practice, and purposeful individual practice with frequent review, often referred to as I do, we do, you do. Phonics instruction begins as soon as students know the sounds of a few letters. Phonics instruction routines often follow a similar format. We begin by clearly explaining the purpose or goal of the lesson, followed by a brief phonemic awareness activity using letters or a sound wall. Next, we guide students through review and practice of previously taught grapheme-phoneme correspondences before clearly introducing the new concept. Lessons should provide multiple opportunities to practice this new concept, including in isolation, blending, and with dictation. Finally, students read decodable words, sentences, and text containing this new concept. A lot of research has been done around phonics instruction. It has shown that phonics instruction has its greatest impact on beginning readers in kindergarten and grade 1, and it should be implemented in those grades. Insufficient phonics instruction during the early grades can have a lasting impact on students' reading ability as they move through the grades. Initially, students might demonstrate proficiency in reading simple text accompanied by pictures, but their reading ability is likely to decline in later grades as texts become more complex. Growing success reminds us that the primary purpose of assessment is to improve student learning. Let's explore how to use assessment to drive our instruction in regards to phonics. Assessment of phonics is a powerful way for educators to improve student outcomes. Growing success reminds us that the primary purpose of assessment is to improve student learning. Diverse sources of information that provide us with details about students' knowledge of grapheme-phoneme relationships, for example, early reading screening, and diagnostic assessments can be used for assessment for learning and can guide our instruction. Many evidence-based screening tools include phonics subtests for young readers, such as correct letter sound scores on nonsense word fluency measures, and can help to identify at-risk students. Progress monitoring of this measure allows us to ensure that instruction and intervention are effective. For writing, we might use a spelling survey, which allows us to look more closely at a student's understanding of sounds, spelling patterns, and morphology. To sum up, a knowledge and understanding of grapheme-phoneme correspondence is essential for reading and spelling success. These relationships must be explicitly taught, as our brains are not wired to read. This instruction is most effective in kindergarten and grade 1. However, we know that this is not the only component in good reading instruction. Thanks for listening and for continuing to build your understanding in order to meet the needs of your students.